Somewhere, between the folds of time and the debris of oblivion, a letter waited. It didn't wait days or months, it waited decades. It was hidden, not thrown away, a prison of paper and ink, sealed by fate and malice. It was during the demolition of an old commercial building in the heart of the city that it was found. Amid piles of rotten wood and crumbling plaster, workers stumbled upon a crevice, a secret compartment behind a false wall. Inside, wrapped in a moldy cloth, was the metal box, and inside the box, intact, the letter. Yellowed by time, but with the handwriting still firm, urgent. The sender was a man named Arthur Nogueira, and every word he wrote was a silent scream. Arthur was not a man of despair. He was a visionary, a dreamer who built his fortune with hard work and innovation. But, like many, he trusted, and his trust was the web that trapped him. The letter began with the urgency of a final plea, almost a lament. "My dear Eduardo, if this letter reaches you, know that it is the last act of a broken man." Arthur described, with painful meticulousness, the colossal fraud that had been orchestrated by his partner, a man he considered a brother. It wasn't just money, it was the reputation, the inheritance, the future of everyone he employed. Every line overflowed with the bitterness of betrayal and the dread of ruin. Names, dates, forged documents, everything was there, in a desperate attempt to expose the truth before it was too late. He wasn't just asking for help, he was delivering the definitive proof, the checkmate that would destroy the empire of lies. The letter was his last bullet, his only hope for justice. He set up a complex web, Eduardo. He siphoned off funds, falsified balance sheets. The company is hollow, and I, a blind fool, only realized it now. Please, go to the police, show them this letter. They need to know who Ricardo Vasconcelos really is. Arthur's voice, however, was not just that of a man pleading. It was the voice of someone who knew that time was running out, that his life, perhaps, was hanging by a thread. He mentioned veiled threats, cold stares, the constant feeling of being watched. The letter was not just a complaint, it was a testament, a premonition. He detailed the exact location where the physical evidence was stored, a safe in his private office, and asked Eduardo to retrieve it. It was a plan, a final strategic move to expose the truth, even if he wasn't there to witness it. And that's where the mystery of its non-delivery tragically intertwined with his disappearance. Arthur Nogueira was never seen again, neither him, nor the evidence in the safe. The company collapsed, Ricardo Vasconcelos emerged unscathed and, somehow, grew even richer from the ashes of Arthur's empire. Authorities closed the case as a suicide or flight. Arthur Nogueira fled with the money, the newspapers said. The truth was distorted, erased, but the letter was found, years later, in a building that should have been a landmark of his life, but became a silent memorial to his absence. Reading Arthur's words, every detail about the fraud, every indication about Ricardo, the question arose, cold and inevitable, why was it never delivered? Who intercepted it? Or, worse, who hid it there, in that secret compartment, so close and yet so far from salvation? Arthur's firm handwriting, which should have brought justice, only amplified the lament. Did he manage to send the letter before disappearing? Or was it taken from him before leaving the building? Was it an act of cowardice, a final fear that prevented him from sending it? Or was it an act of silencing, of interception, so that the truth would never see the light of day? The truth, written on yellowed paper, was finally discovered. But the man who wrote it disappeared, taking with him the reason why it never reached its destination. And in the silence of that demolition, a decades-old secret was finally revealed, not to bring justice, but to perpetuate an even greater mystery. Now, the past calls to us. If this letter finally reached your hands today, what would you do? What is your theory about Arthur Nogueira's whereabouts? And, more intriguingly, who do you believe was truly responsible for the non-delivery of this truth? Share your reflections and what you would do in Eduardo's place in the comments below. Your perspective is part of this mystery.